Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the last Sitecore Strategy webinar of the year. Really excited. We've got two great speakers for you today. So first up, we are going to have Cade Whitbourn from Aceik, and he's going to talk about mastering marketing automation with Sitecore XM Cloud. Great topic. Excited to hear about it. Then we'll hand over to Navneet, who's going to talk about some insights and considerations for moving from XM to XM Cloud. So great topics from both of you. Really excited for this. I will keep it short and get to the exciting stuff. So Cade, right on over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so today in this session, we're going to be exploring the fundamental building blocks of marketing automation. And my goal really is to show you how good marketing automation is built around a good understanding of customer personas and customer journeys. And so while we'll look at Sitecore's powerful suite of tools and technology in this session, really fundamentally, this is about how we go about mapping the digital experience to our understanding of human behavior and needs as they use our website and digital channels. And so what I want to demonstrate really is how we can use Sitecore composable tools to automate the marketing experience that guides customers through their journey and through our website conversion funnel. So we're going to demonstrate this. I'm going to talk to this specifically using a website we've created for Cover Insurance. So this is a fictional financial services brand which sells insurance products. And the Cover website is built using XM Cloud, and it's built with integrations into various Sitecore products, including Sitecore CDP, Personalize, and Sitecore Send. Now, as I said at the outset, like all good marketing automation models, our model is built around personas. That is our understanding of our website users. So today I want you to meet Annie. Annie is a 45-year-old financial analyst. She's been recently promoted at work. She is tech savvy. She is research orientated, and she doesn't make quick decisions, especially about financial products. So she's our informed advocate persona. And we're going to follow her journey from her first interaction with our brand all the way through to making a purchase of one of our insurance products. So we're going to track her journey through the 5 typical stages of the customer journey and our conversion funnel. And as we progress through, it's important to note that at each stage of the journey, Annie's needs and knowledge about our brand evolves. And so too, our knowledge about Annie and who she is and what she's interested in increases as well as she interacts more with our brand. So what we should be doing as part of a good marketing automation model is using different tactics and particularly different messages, depending on where she's at the journey and what her information needs are. And so the experiences we offer should also be becoming increasingly targeted and tailored to her and her needs. So let's start Annie's journey. So it begins in the awareness phase. So it's let's say 8:30 p.m. on a Monday night, and Annie is browsing social media, and she pauses on a particular ad, which is our Summer 25 campaign. It's a Facebook ad. And this Facebook ad is set up to target individuals like Annie that match a broad profile of professionals potentially seeking a premium insurance coverage. And so basically the awareness phase starts from this first moment of seeing the ad through to clicking on the ad, through to her first visit of our website, where we provide a tailored experience. So let's walk through that now. So Annie clicks through on our ad, and from that ad, we have some basic UTM campaign tracking parameters in place, which identifies her as a first-time Summer 25 campaign visitor. And hopefully you can see that in the URL string there, the basic UTM tracking parameters. And so what we do is provide a simple tailored greeting bar across the top of our website, which is this green bar here, a simple welcome message given it's her first visit to the site, and a very simple call to action. Given she knows basically nothing about cover, we want to guide her into our different product offering. So the call to action there is to browse our products. And then behind the scenes, what we're doing to enable that personalization is using Sitecore Personalize. And as I said, we've set this up so that it only shows to visitors who come in through our Summer 25 campaign. Now, given this is such a basic, simple use case, we could actually use XM Cloud out of the box personalization for this, but obviously Personalize more than adequately does the job as well. And you can see the filter set up to only show this experience to visitors that match our Summer 25 campaign. So that's it for the awareness phase. Annie is now aware of our brand. She's arrived on our site, and we've prompted her to take the next step in her journey of finding out more about our products. So now let's see how we can use more prompts to lead her through the journey from here. And we are in the discovery phase, building interest. So as Annie explores our website and products, she does this increasingly intentfully. And what we're doing is continuously capturing data about what she's interested in, what she's looking at, what her interests might be. And while she's still an anonymous visitor at this point, we don't know her name, we don't know her email address or anything. Nevertheless, we can continue to make adjustments to her experience based on what we do know about her. That is assuming she's using the same device each visit. So let's drill down into that. So what's happening is she's browsing our website and viewing different pages, and we can see this data in real time if we look in Personalize under Event Viewer. And we can see that Annie is paying particular attention to our Auto Shield product page. We can see she's viewed it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. And then if we've got CDP installed, which we do, we can see this detail, or we can see much more detail really about her activity. So she's still anonymous. So we've got the unidentified browser or customer ID here at the top, but we're slowly building up a picture of who she is. And what we can do in CDP is start to build segments based on this data. So for cover, we're selling insurance products. And so we're going to build customer segments based on particular product interest. Let me show you that now. So I've got a segment here set up based on interest in our Auto Shield product. So the CDP will automatically add visitors to this segment if, in this case, they view our Auto Shield product page more than 3 times. And of course, Annie matches that criteria. We've seen her view it 4 times. And then once this segment is created, you've got a bunch of users that match that criteria, and you can do various things with that segment, both within CDP and Personalize and also external to it, which we'll talk about. But at this stage of the journey, we don't know Annie, who she is, but we know that this particular user is part of our segment, and we can use these segments in some basic personalization experiences. So we have a personalization experience set up here shown in this screenshot, and it's filtered to only show this experience to visitors that match the segment, which is interest in Auto Shield, which is Annie. And the experience itself is a pop-up. So as Annie's browsing our site, she's going to see this pop-up, which is prompting her to add Cover Auto Shield product to her shortlist. So this is a very targeted nudge for Annie, who's shown an interest in Auto Shield, who's at a particular stage in the journey, and shortlisting is the next step in our conversion funnel from broad interest through to a more tailored specific interest in a particular product. And as I've just recently mentioned, we're using a segment-based filter for this experience. The one point about segment-based filters is that segments are not built in real time. It's an overnight process. So it's not the right use case where you need real-time behavior-based personalization, but it is suited to this longer-term kind of customer-based experience. Okay, so Annie's interest has deepened and it's focused so far on this Auto Shield product. But let's see how we can now move her from more casual browsing to more detailed information seeking. So we're up to the consideration phase in the journey. And after several visits to our website, Annie feels positive about our brand and she's got a good idea about some of our products. But she's still got specific questions about coverage details that perhaps aren't answered in our generic website content. So she decides to reach out through our contact form and provide her contact details and ask her specific question. So in this consideration phase, this is a crucial stage where our automation really needs to kick up a gear. And we're going to power that through some data integrations with Sitecore Send. And use Sitecore Send to send some various automated triggered responses. So let's talk that through now. So on our website, we've got standard contact forms. You can see the screenshot of that here. Behind the scenes, this contact form is built with XM Cloud Forms, which is a relatively new inclusion within the XM Cloud suite of tools. And what we've done is configure our standard form component in XM Cloud to send all form submissions to two different places. Okay. Firstly, we've got it set up to send all form submissions to CDP, and we send those as a particular event called Form Submitted event. And within that event, we've got all the form data that the visitor completes as the data extension object. And hopefully you can see that in this screenshot. So the data object here with the name and information about the person that submitted the form. And then over here on the left of the screenshot in the timeline, you can see that the event is form submitted. That's captured here. And also importantly, our anonymous visitor goes from being anonymous to being identified as Annie. So now we know that it is Annie, we know her name, we know her email address, we know whatever else she's submitted within that form within the CDP context. And we've also got our form submitting into Sitecore Send. And so any form submissions are captured as a subscription into this particular mailing list that we've got set up. And then we've got an automation built in Sitecore Send. Whenever anybody submits a form and therefore is subscribed to a list, then they're sent an automated email, which is a welcome email, providing more information about our different insurance products. Here's that email, and as you can see, there's a list of each of our insurance products listed here. And then we've got click tracking set up from that email so that we can see which links are clicked on. And the automation here in the screenshot shows that in our example with Annie, if she clicks on the link to HomeGuard product, HomeGuard insurance, then we set her product of interest to HomeGuard now, and then we send a subsequent automated email, this time providing more information about the product she's shown interest in, which is HomeGuard. And here's our HomeGuard product email. And you can see it includes a call to action to download the product information sheet, which is the next step in our journey from shortlisting through to downloading a product information sheet. So we've got Annie's profile now in both Sitecore Send and CDP. We know she's interested in HomeGuard, and we know the next step is for her to download the product information sheet. From a CDP perspective, we can now add her to an additional segment that's a little bit more targeted. So we've set up a segment here for visitors who are identified where we know their email address, and in this case, where we know that they are based in Sydney. So Annie is added to this segment, and we can use this segment now, as we've talked about, for on-site personalization experiences. But we can also export this segment out of CDP and push it to another CRM or to any of our preferred advertising platforms so that we can continue to send Annie, in this case, targeted messages that are Sydney specific when she's browsing other websites and doing her daily activities across various other digital channels. Okay, we're up to the decision phase now of the journey. So Annie's seriously considering our HomeGuard product, and she continues browsing our site, and she continues taking some high intent actions for which we want to have targeted responses to, which includes more emails and more website personalization. So let's dig into that a bit more. So we know she's received our HomeGuard email. We know the prompt there is for her to download the product information sheet. So she clicks on that link in the email, arrives on our website, and has here the prompt on the HomeGuard page to download the information sheet, which she does, which clicks through to a PDF. And then behind the scenes, we've got this set up in CDP, and we're going to pass that button click as another custom event called button clicked, where the value is the button label, in this case, download HomeGuard information sheet. And then we can use these events as triggers within our personalization experience, and we can also use it as goals as well. So in this case, we've got a personalization experience set up, filtered to only show for visitors who have clicked this button to download the product information sheet, which is Annie. And what we want to do for these visitors, given that they've downloaded the product information sheet, we want to prompt them with the next best action, which is to submit a request for a quote. And you can see that in the green bar here across the bottom of the website. We're prompting them to fill in the form, which is a submission of a quote request. So we've moved Annie through shortlisting, through downloading a product information sheet, to then requesting a quote. And behind the scenes, what we've got is another automation in Sitecore Send, so that when they request a quote, they're sent a follow-up email, which is, as you can see here, an offer to purchase a policy with a time-sensitive incentive of a 10% discount for new policies purchased today. And so with this, we're almost there. We know Annie's shown clear interest in this product. We know she's completed the steps to this point. And our focus now is on removing any final barriers to purchase. And we are in the purchase phase where we need to close the deal. So Annie's done the research, she's completed the key actions, she's moved through the key stages of the journey, and she's inclined towards purchasing. But like many customers, she's waiting for the right moment. So our goal is to make the right moment now. And from our previous email offering a discount, we can see that she's returned to the website. She's visited the purchase page several times, but she hasn't yet completed a purchase. So in Send, what we've got is another automation set up here, a little bit more complicated this time, but basically we're listening for key events. So once Annie adds the HomeGuard insurance product to her cart, this sends an event to Sitecore Send, and then we're listening for the next event, which would be a purchase. But as you can see there, if after 2 days there's no purchase event, then we kick in and send a follow-up email, potentially offering a further discount as an incentive to purchase. And of course, if she comes back to the website during this time, we can continue prompting her using the same kinds of tactics we've seen, but with more specific calls to action and more specific messaging. We want messaging that's all about addressing any last-minute concerns, potentially building additional social proof, offering guarantees, preempting any questions, all the types of messaging that's all about gently nudging her towards taking that final step. And with that, hopefully you've seen the orchestration of a number of different marketing automation tools within the Sitecore suite. Each one has got a slightly different role to play, captures a slightly different set of data, and potentially helps provide the right different types of information through different channels, ideally all at just the right time. So the key takeaways, hopefully you've seen that marketing automation obviously includes a fair consideration of technology, but it's not just about the technology. It's about understanding and responding to real people and their needs and their interests as they travel through a particular customer journey. And what we want to do is combine data intelligence with thoughtful, targeted messaging to give them an experience that feels personal and feels helpful rather than just pushy or automated. And as you've seen in the current composable world, you will have to use various tools. You will likely have to orchestrate experiences across tools and platforms, and you'll need to be smart about how you pass the right data to the right tool at the right kind of time. But by building our marketing automation around our understanding of users, personas, and journeys, hopefully you've seen how we can not only enhance the experience for the user, but we can also improve our chance of actually converting each person into a paying customer. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Cade. I think that's really wonderful. I hope that there is a lot of content there to inspire people who are, at the first stage of what sort of personalization should I be doing and what tools can I use. So I think that that's really fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise today. With that, we can go ahead and hand right on over to Navneet. Navneet, feel free to take us away.
Megan, if it's okay, can I ask a quick question to Cade?
Yeah, absolutely. Cade.
Yeah, Cade, that was amazing. My question was, you had a bunch of really neat tools in the stack that you were using, CDP being one and Send being the other. Can we achieve what you've achieved if we don't have CDP and Send? If you've got our own customer data platform and if we've got our own email automation?
No reason conceptually why not, because as you've seen, you haven't seen, but there's no fancy or pre-built integration between those tools. We've added the integration in the code layer, so there's nothing behind the scenes that stitched it all together as a single Sitecore platform. They're all individual tools that we've just happened to choose Sitecore to use for their various purposes, but no reason why you couldn't plug in any other tool, as long as obviously you can achieve the same functionality of sending events between the website and that tool, which of course they're all should be all should be capable of doing. So you could use anything.
Definitely, life's a lot more easier if you've got tools from the same stack. So,
but they're all composable tools, and that's really what we're all designing for these days. I think plug and play capabilities.
Correct. Cool. I can go ahead and share my screen now. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Navneet.
So I've got a bunch of slides, and apologies if I've got some more written content than visual representations, and I'll still try to go through and share my experiences. In a sense, just to give you a backstory, we've been running 10.3 XM, and over the past few weeks, we've been exploring how we can get to Sitecore SaaS, in this case, XM Cloud. And there's been a bunch of work that's happened on the side to figure out our current state. What are some of the projected areas that we need to look at, and how we can get to XM Cloud. So this piece of presentation that you're seeing here is more of some of those thought process getting translated into the information in the slides. Now, of course, this is not an exhaustive list. I'm pretty sure I missed a bunch of things, but at least some of this would trigger some thought process for you all if some of you are following the same exact journey of migrating to XM Cloud. Agenda is pretty simple. We look at what XM Cloud is, key drivers, considerations, some areas to watch, and key takeaways. So it's pretty much straightforward, nothing too complex in there. A quick 10-second intro. I am Navneet Pisharodi. I'm a Sitecore solution architect working for Foodstuffs in New Zealand. So I'm based in Auckland, New Zealand. And I've been fortunate to be a 3-time Sitecore MVP. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and off late, which I'm really happy about, I'm really passionate about Mac architecture, and probably one of the reasons why we are thinking about XM Cloud. But there's a bunch of social media channels where I am. To be honest, I'm a bit old school now, so LinkedIn would be the best place to reach me. So do send me a note on LinkedIn if any of you want to get in touch, and we'll be more than happy to connect. So moving into what is XM Cloud? Now, there's quite a lot of differentiators, but for me, these were the three important ones. The first one is it's cloud native. Essentially, it's cloud-based solution, which means that hassle of maintaining and managing infrastructure and security is completely off the books. It's on cloud, which means it's scalable. Updates are automatic. You don't need to worry about patches, upgrades. Upgrades, that's an important one. Otherwise, we tend to have to block some time every couple of years to work on an upgrade. All of that is off the book, so which means that's handled for you by Sitecore. All you have to worry is build front-end experiences or customer experiences. But in a nutshell, it's re-architected XM for the cloud. Another one is it's an enterprise headless CMS, which is the architecture is headless. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with headless, this is an analogy that I've used in the past quite a few times. But those of you who are familiar with an electric toothbrush, you know how you can swap the heads, right? So you can use the base system with any sort of head you need. It's almost the same concept. You've got this headless CMS that's delivering content irrespective of the front end channel that you are displaying to your customer. So you could have a mobile app, you could have a tablet app, you could also have n number of websites. It doesn't matter. All of them pulling content and experience from that same headless CMS that is powering the backend engine. And all content is delivered from via the edge, which means everything's extremely performant. And I just also want to call out, and again, Kate's kind of briefly mentioned on this also, that it comes with basic out-of-the-box personalization that you can tag onto. For anything more, you can do exactly what was in the previous demo. The third one for me is, again, because I am a lot more interested in that Mac architecture, I like that Jamstack architecture. And in this case, XM Cloud is built so that it works seamlessly with modern front-end frameworks. So you could have a React app or a Next.js app sitting somewhere completely disconnected from your Sitecore. It could be hosted on Azure, AWS, Netlify, Vercel, it doesn't matter. And it could still, give that reactive development experience that our front-end developers are looking for, yet have the capability to integrate with Sitecore using APIs to get all of the content and experiences that Sitecore can drive. Plus, anything that is Jamstack architecture is built to handle large traffic spikes and have that automated scaling and unlimited scaling that you're looking for, which in the past with a platform XM or a self-managed XM, that's basically also a thing that you need to worry about. Some of the key drivers, again, these are key drivers that we had identified. I'm pretty sure there's probably more that you're looking for. But before I get to the key drivers, the image on the right is basically from Sitecore's documentation itself. The key one that I'd like to point to is that static site hosting at the top, the one that says example Next.js. What we are trying to get at is we work in the grocery industry, and we've got a very dynamic marketing team that wants to connect with customers and that wants to make customers' life a lot more easier and deliver value in quicker iterations. So one of the key drivers was that we wanted our teams to focus on delivering customer experiences rather than maintaining and managing platform and infrastructure. And you'll see that static site hosting, and it necessarily doesn't need to be static site. It can also be a server side rendering, which means it can also be a dynamic site with no caching at all. But you can see that box sits completely outside the blue box at the bottom, which works great because that's the only place where we want our teams to focus on. And in this case, XM Cloud basically comes within the blue box, which means Sitecore takes care of everything, including hosting and infrastructure. And we just worry about that front end and about expanding that front end for our customers. So in summary, this entire structure aligned with the Mac vision that architecture was driving internally that we were hoping to achieve. And for those of you who are not familiar with MAC, MAC stands for Microservices, API First, Cloud Native, and Headless. And of course, Cloud Native and Headless, we just touched base upon that. And microservices and API First is something that most of the organizations nowadays are adopting. Microservices basically gives you that disconnected capability wherein you've got a bunch of services that satisfies domain-specific requirements. And API First, in this case, in this example, if you are looking at it from a content perspective, you've got that GraphQL layer sitting between the static site hosting and the edge, which is nothing but content API. So in a way, not in a way, actually, this fits into that MAC vision that we are trying to drive internally. The second one that we were facing a challenge with is the burden of managing and maintaining infrastructure. With XM, now we did have a past where we were on XC and it was a lot more headache for us. But with XM, it's pretty much stable and it's functioning wonderfully well. But you still have that aspect of your infrastructure deployed to Azure Kubernetes and how you can maintain and manage them going forward. You would have a dependency either on internal teams or on an external third-party vendor who's specifically looking and taking care of your infrastructure. Upgrades is always going to happen. It is something that needs to happen at least every couple of years when you're revisiting your product lifecycle management. Patches can happen quite often. With infrastructure management comes that responsibility to ensure that you are always on top of your vulnerability management. We do have security scans running on the system every now and then, and if our security team were to raise a concern or a vulnerability, we have to drop everything else and focus on resolving this one. So in summary, there was a lot of burden on the team and a lot of context switching that the team had to do to ensure that, rather than having that focus to deliver business initiatives, they had to take a pause and focus on getting the infrastructure sorted. Now, for us, we wanted to eliminate that burden. That was number two. Number three, our developers were enjoying what they were on. So currently we are running on ASP.NET, and we also have an aspect of front end running on our Visual Stack and using Next.js and so on. But obviously, going forward, there was a preference that our front end heavy teams have their focus more on delivering value through using the new modern JavaScript frameworks like Next.js, and make sure that you've got that time to market and that iteration a lot more quicker. And of course, access to ongoing innovation. What that means is with a SaaS product like XM Cloud or with any sort of SaaS products, you've got the benefit that if a new capability is released, if a new improvement is released on the platform, you can immediately consume that versus you're self-managing the infrastructure. If everything's fine, the normal habit is that you tend to be comfortable and you tend to stop your innovation and try to just get the platform running. So access to ongoing innovation was also important for us. So if you look at some considerations in terms of SaaS hosting, this is for customers that need technology and vendor freedom. They want to remove the risk and burden of hosting and product upgrades and updates. In this case, you could have patches or fixes and so on, platform fixes and so on. There, obviously, every customer or everyone using delivering value to front-end customers would need a highly scalable front-end experience for their customers. Even today, like if you were to visit a website, you don't want to be clicking on a link and waiting for a second or two. You want things to be quickly loaded to you in say milliseconds. That's the kind of experience that people have moved on to, and we need to ensure that we kind of support that and we kind of elevate our SEO and our experience for customers. And as we satisfy all of this, we also want to use a different best-of-breed marketing stack to solve business issues. We don't want to be in a stack that lacks the innovation that we should be putting in. I'm not saying that Sitecore XM does not have the innovation, but if you look at it, we've already installed Sitecore XM locally. We've got all of the capabilities that XM provides, but are we kind of putting the effort to improve on what we have? Probably not. Not because we don't want to, just because we don't have the time to do it. So why not move to a SaaS hosting where everything's actually provided to you by someone else, in this case, Sitecore, and you've got access to all of that, best-in-time options that you can utilize. Another thing that we did think about is content migration. We've got huge amount of content sitting in our Sitecore XM. Like that is one big concern for us is how do we actually, if we were to go to XM Cloud, or if and when we were to go to XM Cloud, how do we kind of move all that content into the new system? A few things that we had in mind is one, of course, we had to go in and do an inventory and audit. As with any CMS, what happens is over time, there's a lot of legacy content that gets built into the platform that probably are no longer required or no longer used. So we need to go in and evaluate what can be migrated, archived, or discarded. And that itself is a good process because that would help you filter out a lot of things that you probably don't need. The second thing is there could be scenarios where your content types and page templates and your fields and general schema mapping could be ported into XM Cloud, but in most scenarios, there is a good reason that you can go back and revisit some of those and do some cleanup. And maybe also it's okay to say that you might have to rework your templates rather than bringing in something that's legacy and not optimized. A third one that we did look at is, let's say if we do decide to go with XM Cloud, how do we get the content over? And we did try out XM Cloud migration tool. So we did try out some proof of concepts using XM to XM Cloud migration tool. And to be honest, we tried it out on version 1, not on version 2. And version 1 still did let us accomplish what we wanted to. But I've definitely read quite a lot of good articles that version 2 is a lot more better. So having accomplished what I wanted to accomplish with version 1, I can definitely say with confidence that you could accomplish that migration with version 2 a lot more faster and quicker. And the last two pieces are, there is always that aspect of quality assurance and testing and end user training that you need to keep in mind. Yes, XM Cloud is more or less XM on the cloud, and the features are more or less, familiar for our content team and content authors. But there's also that aspect of, how do you do your navigation between your projects, sites, environments? How do you use the pages editor? So there's still new aspects. How do you set up your forms? There are still new aspects on XM Cloud that would need end user training. So something to keep in mind. Sorry, I've got my, hope you guys can see me. I got the motion sensor turned off. But moving into personalization, one thing that we had to keep in mind was we were using out of the box personalization capabilities that are XC did offer, which is primarily XP. And when we moved to XM, we basically ensured that whatever is provided out of the box with XM works for us. And we essentially have to make sure that whatever is available out of the box with XM Cloud works for us in terms of that migration from XM to XM Cloud. In our case, it does work. In our case, those basic personalization rules that are available out of the box with XM Cloud works well for us. But there could be scenarios where you might need tools like Psycho-Personalize or CDP to satisfy a bit more advanced use cases. I just want to call out that the out-of-the-box personalization is more in session, so you need to keep that in mind. But with Psycho-Personalize and CDP, do keep in mind that those would be a license add-on if you do require them. But as in the previous demo that Cade took us through, if you've got other composable offerings from the same stack, it's a lot more easier to integrate in comparison to using other third-party offerings. Another one that we wanted to look at was deployment. Yes, we had a CI/CD process that was working. We were able to get value to customers through our release cycles, but we also wanted to kind of utilize that the latest and greatest in terms of Git integrated builds and deploys, in terms of integrating advanced automation testing tools like, for example, Playwright. We wanted to introduce design system. We wanted to introduce UI testing. So there were a lot of gaps in our existing flow, or there are still a lot of gaps in our existing flow that we are confident we'll be able to plug with that sort of a composable Jamstack architecture that we are looking to go ahead with with the use of XM Cloud. We already have Vercel in our stack, and we already have apps running on Vercel, which means we've got one aspect of it covered, but we are missing the aspect of headless content, which we are hoping to plug in with XM Cloud. Another one, again, we've got a very powerful DAM internally that we use. I don't know if you did notice during some of the symposium talks, we did have a few mentions of how Foodstuffs was using Content Hub. But with the move to XM Cloud, now with the current XM, we've got all of our media and assets and all of it sitting within the media library, which is fine. I'm not saying that it's the wrong way of using it, but considering that you're moving to a more front-end, highly performant delivery of value to customers, delivery of your sites, it's important to also consider that this is your opportunity to move to a more unified content management. In this case, the use of Content Hub, and in the process, optimize and deliver your media and assets in a much more performant manner. In this case, Content Hub also uses Experience Edge under the hood, and Experience Edge is basically the edge caching layer of the edge CDN that delivers your content seamlessly for you. So with a migration to XM Cloud, I'm kind of alluding that this is also an opportunity for you to consider a DAM if you don't have one, but not having a DAM or not wanting to use a DAM is not a stopper for you to get to XM Cloud. You could still put your media within XM Cloud. They would still be published to Experience Edge that is tied to your XM Cloud, and they would still be delivered from Experience Edge. But the place where DAM really comes into play is if you've got multiple channels where you're actually wanting that same set of media to be delivered to or be used. If you've got external studio teams, if you've got external vendors that use media that you kind of create within your studio, then DAM is a pretty good use case to think about. A few areas to watch, of course, platform customizations. In the past, or with XP or XM or XC self-managed or platform version, you've got that added freedom to do any sort of customizations to your CMS system or your platform, so that you can satisfy a bunch of use cases that are driven by your marketing or your business requirements. Now, all those worked for us well so far, but the one thing that I'd like to call out, and has been called out by a lot of speakers who talk about XM Cloud, is when you're envisioning a migration from your platform XM to XM Cloud, it'll be good if you can exclude all of the customizations and see if there are other ways to achieve some of those customizations. The main thing is with XM Cloud, you've got you need to keep in mind that it's a SaaS offering, which means updates are constantly driven. There's constant updates coming through, which means any platform upgrade can actually override some of your customizations, which means you lose access to them, which essentially leads us to, you'll need to keep pushing those customizations into XM Cloud, assuming that they are supported with each software upgrade. So long story short, better exclude customizations and focus on what XM Cloud provides out of the box in terms of platform capabilities, and achieve what you want to achieve using other integrations or other workflows that are supported within XM Cloud. Another one that we had a lot of Sitecore Forms usage across our sites, and for us it's not just one site. We've got, I think, 9 or 10 different sites that we support, and we had a wide use of MVC Sitecore Forms within our implementation, and it's pretty much, long story short, it's not supported in XM Cloud. So there is no concept of forms database. MVC Sitecore Forms won't work in XM Cloud. What you would need to do is use XM Cloud Forms, which is pretty slick, and it also comes with the capability to set up and configure webhooks that can send the form data to any sort of third-party system that you have internally. So to be honest, not having support for MVC Sitecore Forms and forcing that move into XM Cloud Forms is pretty neat. I'm all for it. Another one is site search. A common workflow for anyone on a platform DXP, a Sitecore DXP, is that you would have your indices that use the content search API, or sorry, you've got your indices that are configured within your platform that basically index all your content, all your marketing content onto an external search provider. It could be search tags, it could be some other provider, but it's all done using Sitecore's framework capabilities. The one thing that I'd like to call out here is with XM Cloud, all of that is gone. The way your current site search works, the way your current marketing content indexing works, none of that would work going forward. What you would need to look at is more of use something like Sitecore Search, or use any other tools that you have within your stack that can go and crawl your pages and index data using the web crawler approach, rather than using the old indexing mechanisms, or using you basically won't be able to implement site search using content search API, because that's not a thing on XM Cloud. Another one, this is more of a use case that we did look at, because we had quite a lot of Launchpad apps that primarily looked at implementing bulk content uploads, because we used to run campaigns. We've got a lot of brick and mortar stores, which meant that we had to look at bulk uploads for store information, for holiday hours, a bunch of use cases. The key aspect to keep in mind is Launchpad apps and custom ASPX admin pages are no longer recommended. From what I understand, you can still hit an admin page, like you could still construct or deploy a .aspx page, but as I highlighted earlier, any upgrade, software upgrade on your XM Cloud can actually erase that. It can remove that totally. The recommended approach is that if you do need custom capabilities within your platform, within XM Cloud, always make use of Sitecore's authoring or management GraphQL APIs, and always construct an internal facing application that uses the GraphQL endpoints to satisfy some of these requirements, rather than building admin pages or extending your Launchpad, because those are not recommended. There's quite a lot of other key aspects to keep in mind also. One that I can think of is, if you've got a front-end heavy team, in the past, like with a platform XM sort of scenario, it was difficult to kind of disconnect a front-end experience from having a local Sitecore instance running. Whereas with XM Cloud is more front-end focused, which means you have the capability for your front-end developers to work against an XM Cloud instance using a version of experience such. It could be your preview endpoint, it could be your delivery endpoint on one of your XM Cloud instances. You could still have your backend developers who work both on front-end and backend, who can still get XM Cloud set up locally pretty quickly using Dockers, and then get their work done. So you've got the capability to support both backend and front-end. And the differentiating factor is that now your front end is there's a lot more drive to support your front end, which means all of our front end developers who work on the modern tech stack can continue to enjoy what the modern tech stack offers, with the added benefit that they can still retrieve content and experiences that XM Cloud drives to enrich their local development experience. In summary, some key takeaways. Firstly, the move to XM Cloud eliminates the need to invest in and maintain costly infrastructure. Second, Sitecore SaaS provides automatic updates and maintenance, ensuring that development teams always have access to latest features and security enhancements without any sort of manual burden. Third, it offers enhanced scalability and flexibility. Performance is never an issue. Traffic spikes, it's never an issue. It's all handled for you. And finally, it's a modern front-end framework that helps reduce time to market for customer initiatives. It elevates developer experience and satisfaction. And with the adoption of Next.js and that Visual Stack internally, we've already seen productivity improvements, and we've already seen that reduced time to market for our capabilities. So we're having much more quicker iterations of value to customers, rather than in comparison to what we had before. And imagine that we are doing that with XM powering. in the background, and we're pretty sure that if we kind of strip XM and replace that with XM Cloud, it'll be significantly much more better than what we are experiencing today. But I think that's what I had for the presentation. Again, this is my memory dump or mind dump that I've kind of shared. I'm pretty sure there's tons of other things that you can get value from. I'm pretty sure I've missed a few, but hopefully this adds value to someone who's listening to the recording.
I absolutely think so, Navneet. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I think there's some great considerations for people to think about when they're moving from something like an XM to an XM Cloud. So really appreciate your time. I think that's fantastic. And Navneet and Cade are both on LinkedIn. So if anyone has any questions after kind of attending this session, watching this session, please feel free to reach out to them. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions. And thank you again so much for your time, both of you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.